President of Marketing Association of Pakistan, which has the privilege of co-organizing this evening's tea meeting. I'm saying co-organizing because we're doing it with Optara. I'm saying co-organizing because Optara has been instrumental in inviting the illustrious trainer, Mr. Rajkumar, who's here with us and who's going to share with us his thoughts about um, innovation, which is, I think, a joint phrase between strategy and innovation. Um, Mr. Rajkumar is here in Karachi, and he has been conducting uh, a couple of workshops, one of which was held today, the other will be held tomorrow. And his forte is blue ocean strategy. And frankly speaking, much as I would like to know about blue ocean strategy, I haven't had a chance to actually go through this program. But the little I know and the little that I've applied in my life from the blue ocean strategy that I've heard is that blue ocean strategy is about making your competition irrelevant. Um, there are times when there is an intensity of competition in a market. Uh, that's, I think, called red ocean. And as a result of that intensity of competition, neither you nor your competitor gains anything at the end of the day. So it's better that you find your own segment of market and he or she finds, or let the others do what they are doing and you find another segment of market where you are leading. And that is the blue ocean strategy, if I put it simply. I mean, forgive me for my naivety, but this is how I see it. Okay. Making the competition irrelevant, and that may not be always possible in my mind, but this is why we have Mr. Rajkumar. Before I invite Mr. Rajkumar for a lecture that is going to enhance our knowledge about the subject, could I invite our co-organizer, Mr. Jamil Janjua? He's representing Okara, and if he could come and explain a little bit about this program, and of course introduce the facilitator for this evening, Mr. Jamil Janjua.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum ji. For those who don't know about Octara, we are a company that belongs to TCS. We provide a platform for international trainers to come in over here and deliver the best possible program that we think the country needs, you people need. So in a manner, we are just helping out, disseminating knowledge and information and best practices to our international trainers. Rajkumar has been with us for the last 3 years. He has come in about 3 years back and he brought this program called Blue Ocean Strategy. For all those of you who have not read Blue Ocean Strategy, I would strongly recommend, if you're in marketing, go through it. Go through the synopsis of it for getting maximum benefit in your function as such. The program that we have today is innovation, a combination of two words, strategy and innovation, and that's what Blue Strategy is all about actually. So I will not take away the substance of the program in advance. I will not going to be a killjoy over there, but I would like to say a few things about Raj. You obviously are here because you've already seen his bio in the flyers that you got, in the invitation you got. But just to recap, he's a certified consultant and practitioner from the Blue Ocean Strategy Initiative Center of Professors Kim and Mormon. How do you pronounce that? I have a problem. Kim?
Correct. Kim and
Mormon. Great. Conducted Blue Ocean Strategy program across North America, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific with participants from over 25 countries. He is the CEO at the UCSI Consulting Group Malaysia, with whom Optara has an alliance. His key achievements include being promoted as the youngest vice president in UCSI Group's history, and he still continues to be young. A doctoral scholar in business and administration at UCSI University. He holds a Master of Science in Strategic Business from University of Portsmouth. So he's got good credentials to be here today, to be addressing all of you over here. In the end, I would like to thank Mr. Ali, my Marketing Association in Pakistan, for providing Octara the opportunity to co-host this event. And I think we will want to continue doing these as we go along with our other international players. Thank you very much. Let's give a very warm welcome to.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I always love coming to Pakistan. I was just joking with JJ that this is like a yearly pilgrimage to come here for the biryani. Yeah, I like the biryani. So it's a pleasure, and I can see that Malaysia and Pakistan is creating a lot of collaboration and creating a very strong relationship. And so we just finished the Blue Ocean Strategy workshop, and you can see all the output. It was a fantastic outcome. We had great reviews, and well, it's a pleasure to be here to share some knowledge and some insights. So I was told that I have about half an hour to 45 minutes. But according to the crowd, I will see based on your facial reaction and also the energy level. I know you guys came from your jobs and your work. It's a long day, so I want to make sure I make it worth your while. So that's the value that I want to add to you. Maybe we could do a bit of presentation, sharing of knowledge for about half an hour. Then we can have some Q and A based on that. Is
May
that
I
okay?
suggest
Yes.
make it 45 minutes and then we can have Q&A?
Okay. So
Make it 1 hour session.
no,
15 minutes.
is that all right? Is that all right with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I haven't even spoken and you say it's okay. Usually, you want to go 15 minutes into the presentation. But no problem. So, I'm here to talk about stranovation, as you can figure it out. It's a combination of strategy and innovation, which I think is something that's very important. So, before I go into the topic, and stranovation is essentially something that is beyond Blue Ocean. But so, before I go into stranovation, I just want to take a step back. And just for some of you who did not have a chance to attend the Blue Ocean Strategy Workshop, which we have done for the last 4 years, we have trained over, I think, over 100 over sea levels up to now. And some of them have even used Blue Ocean Strategy and implemented it in their companies. And even as we speak, Blue Oceans are being created in Pakistan itself. So what is Blue Ocean Strategy? So I know all of you are marketing people. How many of you have heard of Blue Ocean Strategy? Or have read or have come across in that? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, none of you. The rest, you only know the Blue Ocean in Malaysia, in Langkawi. Is that right? Or in Hawaii or wherever you go for swimming. Right? Okay, so for those of you, let me do a quick rundown, right? As brief I can be. What is the difference between a red ocean and a blue ocean strategy? So essentially, it's a kind of strategy. And when we talk about red ocean space, can anyone guess why it's called a red ocean space to begin with? Competition, and there's bloody competition, and there's a lot of fight, and thus the color red. All right. Apologies to those that are at the back there because we have our film crew here. All right. So when we talk about red ocean in its specificity, we are talking essentially about competing in the existing market space. So everybody is fighting for the same market space. And because of that, there's a number of things that are happening and there's a lot of bloody competition. And the next point here is, in order to win, you have to outperform your rival. And the third point here is you're naturally confined by differentiation or low cost, meaning that you're either a five-star player or you're a low-cost player. You can't have both. If you're in the red ocean competition, you're always confined by price war. So you have to drop your price, you have to drop your cost, and that's one way to win. Another way to win is you can increase your price and you can increase your cost and you differentiate yourself from the rest. You cannot have both. And lastly, you have to exploit existing demand. You're not creating any more new demand. And that's a challenge. I'll give you some examples later on, but I just want to lay some fundamental principles here. Whereas when we talk about blue ocean, we're talking about creating an uncontested market space. A market space where you can create on your own and you are able to enjoy less competition, if not no competition at all. Next point is you make your competition irrelevant. I know as a point it's almost impossible to not have competition at all, but the point here is that you are not so obsessed or focused on your competition, because at the end of the day, you're not there to compete, but you're there to create. So you're looking at strategies that you can create, market space that you can create. Many times organizations are so obsessed with the competition. Now, we do a lot of strategy work in the last 10 years in over 25 countries and in all industries. And I can tell you that more often than not, when we talk about strategy, we tend to have a very competitive mindset. A mindset where in order for one to survive, the other has to die. So how did we come to that kind of mindset? Is because the history of strategy is from the military. When we talk about the military, we talk about in order to conquer, you want to win the war, you have to conquer, right? So it's about war. So strategy has been translated into business. So even today, that's how you get terms like headquarters, HQ, CEO, officers, frontliners. All these are military terms. So we tend to be ingrained in this kind of military thinking, and thus the red ocean competitive strategy. But in blue ocean, we are talking about, don't be so obsessed with your competitors. What is your value proposition? What are you offering? What value are you creating in the market? And not only that, can you increase value and reduce cost at the same time? Can you be able to apply value innovation in blue ocean strategy where you can increase value and you can reduce your cost without sacrificing on consumer value? That's the concept of blue ocean. And last but not least is about creating and capturing new demand. Now, when you create and capture new demand, you're not looking at just existing customers. You're looking at non-customers. Who are the non-customers of your industry? Who are the customers that are underserved? Who are the customers that are unserved? What are their pain points? So these are all the questions that we ask in order for us to shift from a red ocean space to a blue ocean space. But the good news is this. It's not just a philosophy. There is a process, right, to the entire concept, whereby we have some tools that we can use in order for us to make a shift from a red ocean space to a blue ocean space. And so what we did in the workshop today is we applied all of the tools, such as the strategy canvas and so on and so forth, and we started applying that systematic process in order for us to create a blue ocean. So in one day, although it was a one-day workshop today, we gave all of them simulation cases, and they applied the tools. In the beginning, they were saying, can we really move away from a red ocean space to a blue ocean space? And at the end of the day, you could just saw there was great excitement in the room because they applied a systematic methodology, and because these tools are based off strategic moves that are very successful in the past, they could apply these tools and create a blue ocean for themselves. Obviously, in one day, you can't really create a fantastic blue ocean. You need at least about 2 months process because you want to gain market insights. So the point here is that it is possible to create a blue ocean from a red ocean space. And I will share with you some examples, at least about 2-3 examples of real actual cases that have used blue ocean and have been successful. But I don't just want to stop. I don't just want to talk about blue ocean per se. I want to inject some form of innovation as well, because innovation is something that's important. And innovation and strategy is a very deadly combination. With leadership, it's a fantastic combination. So these 3 elements are important. So the point here is blue oceans are important and innovation is equally important. With that kind of combination, you can create a fantastic business. But today, in terms of innovation, or rather we talk about red ocean space, we have this term, right, that anybody can get into the ring with you. Meaning that in the past, if you're a large organization like TCS, your competitor would be DHL or maybe Leopard and so on, right? But what if another small company comes in and disrupts the entire technology, right? And maybe these ride-hailing companies suddenly go into logistics, for example, which is already happening in some parts of the world, Kareem and so on, right? So they were a competitor, or rather, were not even considered a competitor, but they can jump into the ring with you. So any kind of small companies can come into the ring with you now, and they can take on giants because of technology, because of innovation that is available. So no longer, in the boxing match, a heavyweight versus a heavyweight, a lightweight versus a lightweight. Now even a Muay Thai boxer can come in, and you're a heavyweight and a lightweight, and you can win the match. So do you agree with that? Yeah? Anybody can come into the ring with you. So disruption is happening even as we speak. And disruption today can come in many forms. In fact, when we do some work in Singapore, some of our clients even set up a unit to identify the disruptors that are coming into their industry. That means they identify who are the small companies, small players that can potentially disrupt their business. And guess what do? They buy them over, they acquire them because they don't want to be disrupted. So meaning to say that things are changing so fast, anything can happen. And disruption is happening at a very rapid pace. But is disruption new? I mean, we're living in the fourth industrial revolution, right? I mean, we call it IR 4.0. We had the first industrial revolution, second, manufacturing, then we had computer, the third revolution, and now fourth industrial revolution, AI, and so on. But are these new? But, disruption has been happening for decades, for ages. It is just that the disruption is happening very fast at a rapid pace today. So talking about history, I just want to show you a very interesting example, right, where disruption is constant and it happened many, many years ago. So the story of ice, right? We're talking about ice. How did ice came about? In the early 1900s, there was these guys called ice harvesters. And these ice harvesters, they will go to the frozen lake or the frozen river and cut off chunks of ice and come and sell it in the town. And ironically, ice was only available during winter. You actually need ice, in the summer, right? So that was the first wave, how this whole industry came about. But what was the next wave? The next wave, in 1933, some people decided to create an ice factory where they found a way to freeze water and they created an ice factory making ice available throughout the year. Right? And then in 1963, after 33 years, all this is in the span of 33 years, somebody created the refrigerator, saying that you don't have to go to the ice factory, you can actually create ice at home. Again, available 24/7, throughout the year. So the question is this: were the ice harvesters the same group of people that created the ice factory? Were the ice factory people the same people that created the refrigerator? No. So the key question is, they were all disrupted by another group of people, right? So why didn't the ice harvesters think about creating an ice factory? Why didn't the ice factory people think about refrigerators? They had the same technology or the method, right? In a sense, or maybe these two guys. But they were disrupted by somebody else. Anybody else?
There was no innovation.
There was no innovation. They were trapped in the thinking. They were trapped because the ice harvesters became more efficient at ice harvesting. They wanted to improve and improve and improve. So they become more efficient at what they do. Whereas the ice factory keep producing a little bit more. They thought they already won the game. So they are very, happy. Obviously, the ice harvester were not very happy when the ice factory came about. And they were not very happy when the refrigerator came about. So the point is, they keep being efficient at what they do, but they can't innovate, or they can't see past what they're doing today because it is very difficult. You are already on the productivity curve, and you're not on the disruption curve. So what happens here is that everybody is, it's very difficult for you to innovate if you are in a particular space. So that's why within here, when you create something, you create a blue ocean, it will eventually become red, right? Because somebody else will jump into the bandwagon unless you disrupt and you create a blue ocean. But innovation on its own is not, it's impossible to happen without strategy. So you need to have the right strategy and innovation as a deadly combination. So what's next, right? So the purpose of this talk is really to introduce you to a philosophy or a concept called stranovation, where in any business we have three major components. We have the strategy, and we have leadership, and we have innovation. And these three can't live without each other. So in the form of strategy, when we think about strategy, leadership and innovation, we are looking at ways to be proactive. If you take a proactive approach and you look at strategy, this is where we want to reconstruct the market. And you can use blue ocean to use that to reconstruct the market. When we talk about innovation, this is where you want to disrupt. So going back to the ice story, right? You have a strategy, but you got to disrupt as well. And you as the leader of the company, you need to take a proactive measure to reconstruct and disrupt in order for you to be positive to move forward. Now, in terms of strategy, you can use a systematic methodology like Blue Ocean strategy. In terms of innovation, you can create an innovation or innovative ecosystem that can enhance the organization's capacity to create innovation. For example, innovation can come from any part of the organization. It doesn't have to come from the smartest guy. The person that understands, and innovation doesn't always have to be high tech. The person that understands the customer insights, the customer pain points, will be the first one to create innovation. Can be the one to give the idea. Now, if you take a proactive approach, then you are on the good side, because companies always have to create strategic moves in moving forward. But if you take a reactive approach, what will happen in the space of strategy is you start to react. When somebody else does something, for example, like when the ice factory guys came, probably the ice harvesters reacted. And in terms of innovation, because you have not come up with something new, you have not disrupted, you have to defend your current innovation. Maybe the ice factory have to defend because they might say, oh, refrigerators are not good. You start to defend. So what happens is when you are in an ad hoc approach, you start to become very defensive in the red ocean space. You start to be reactive in terms of strategy, and you start to be defensive in terms of innovation. But what we are advocating is to take a proactive approach towards being proactive and reconstructing the market in terms of strategy and disrupting in terms of innovation. And at the heart of all of this is leadership. So leadership will have to take the first step in identifying and having that awakening towards moving forward. Agreed? So the concept of stranovation is really marrying the three together: strategy, innovation, and leadership. We like to think of it, the simple illustration, like a car. So you have the car is actually strategy. The driver is leadership. And the fuel is innovation. So that's stranovation. So when we do this, then we see a pattern of success. And we've been doing this for 10 years, and we see, this is based on research, by the way, and this is based on patterns of organizations. Organizations that reconstruct and eventually disrupt are those that are successful and keep being successful at it. Whereas some of them start off in a very successful way, but suddenly they get caught up with competition and they start to react and they start to defend. They don't want to change anymore. So that's why at the heart of it is leadership. Leadership drives it forward in terms of being proactive in reconstructing and disrupting. So the question is, have companies really do this? Yeah, we have studied many companies. So, in view of time, I can't share all of them, but I would like to share some case studies here of those that have applied stranovation. And, for example, in Malaysia, I'll talk a little bit about AirAsia, a low-cost airline. We've got a chance, great opportunity to work with them. So I'll share some of that right after this. And we'll talk a little bit about China in terms of electronics. And lastly, we'll talk about Singapore, right, in terms of manufacturing. So depending on time. So I want to start with Malaysia, of course, talking about stranovation. And the first case I would love to talk to you about is AirAsia. So how many of you here have flown AirAsia? All the guys sitting at the back. No, yeah, as well. Okay, they're a very serious crowd for a marketing group. Okay. All right. So AirAsia. Some people say that I look a bit like Tony Fernandez, but I don't have his kind of money, unfortunately. Right. So, how AirAsia reconstructed and disrupted the airline industry is a case study, right? So AirAsia is a very interesting company that have built a brand out of nothing. They've built a global brand. and they've done very well for themselves in terms of branding and marketing. So I just want to share some insights with you. So for those of you who are not very familiar, AirAsia actually, in 2001, they were a different name, of course. They were actually DRB Highcom, and they were operating under a different name. So Tony Fernandez wanted to start an airline. And when he went to the Prime Minister, Tun Mahathir, at that time, who is still the Prime Minister today, at 93 years old, at that point of time, Tun Mahathir said, I'm not going to issue you a new aircraft license, but I'm going to basically ask you to take over a current airline. And so he took over that airline. That airline had about $11 million in debt. And so they absorbed the debt. They only had 2 planes. And guess what? They only paid like 1 ringgit, right? Or 25 cents US. And it was 3 days before 9/11. And for those of you who don't know Tony Fernandez, he's actually a music executive. And he wanted to start an airline for some reason. It's always been his dream. But within a couple of years, right, within a year, the airline became profitable, earning about 59 million. And in 2006, they overtook Malaysian Airlines, which is a national carrier, with over 40% of domestic market share. And today, they are essentially the best low-cost airline in the world. And they're doing extremely well. So what did they do different? So let me show a very quick video before I move on and debrief.
2001, a Malaysian entrepreneur bought a family airline with 2 planes to its name and $11 million in debt. He paid a token price of just 25 cents. Today, AirAsia is one of the biggest low-cost carriers on the continent. Its fleet of 158 planes fly to 83 destinations in 17 countries, and it celebrated its success with some flair. A former beauty queen turned pilot appears on the cover of its annual report. The New York Times called AirAsia a pioneer in 2007 for importing the low-cost model to Asia. In its early days, some of its flights cost just a few dollars a seat. The airline's founders, an unlikely partnership that includes a former music executive and a Ryanair director, saw an opportunity in Southeast Asia's rapidly growing middle class.
All right. So in the late 90s, before they actually bought over the airline, the entire industry was this. You actually have to go towards all these main carriers, and air travel at that point of time was a luxury because they were offering a lot of onboard meals, range of service, and so on. But there was an unserved demand, right? An unserved demand of latent demand, which is the non-customers. So in Blue Ocean, we talk about going after the non-customers. And 94% of Malaysians have never traveled by air. And that also is a similar statistics for Southeast Asia or Asia, Greater Asia, which was about 90% of people did not travel by air. So the demand was already there. But what happened was the supply was not reaching this demand because air travel was very, very expensive, especially going through agents and so on. And the strategy, making a shift, right? This is Tony with author of Blue Ocean Strategy, Professor Kim. This was his saying, I think airlines have been operating like parrots. They just follow what everyone else is doing, like Great Ocean, right? And Blue Ocean is all about innovation, and they know what the market wants, and they get the price right, will be successful. But in order to do that, you have to apply value innovation. You have to reduce your cost and increase your value. How did they apply value innovation? Number one, they started eliminating things like complimentary in-flight meals, assigned seats. They eliminated all these combined travel agents. They started reducing the turnaround time. The plane flies more than it is on the ground. Because the insight is this, when the plane flies more, the cost of maintaining the plane is actually less. That was one of the insights, right? And what they have is a 25-minute turnaround. The plane reaches in 25 minutes, it's back in the air. So that reduces the cost. So they designed the entire operation around that. And they have a 12-tier pricing strategy. That means it's a nice algorithm. I'll show you shortly. There's a 12 tier of pricing. If you buy the ticket early, you pay a lower price. If you buy the ticket late, you might end up paying even higher than a normal carrier because they know the pricing point, but it's still cheaper in that sense. So it's not just about reducing costs. You don't want to just cut the fat, but you also don't want to cut the muscle. You need to increase the muscle. You want to increase value, and they did a lot of point-to-point connectivity and frequency because in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of airports that are underutilized. And so what they do is they create this point-to-point, going to smaller cities, smaller states, and going after all those people who have never flown before. And so they started landing on a lot of airports that have been underutilized, increasing channel accessibility. And one of the things that they create was the online purchase. They created a fantastic online portal and a lot of ancillary service, complimentary service like bus, hotels, and so on. And so they really designed the entire business to go after all of the non-customers. And they created a tagline called "Now Everyone Can Fly." And this is quite amazing because this tagline is not just for the customer. It doesn't communicate the value proposition to the customer. It also communicates the people proposition for the employees. Meaning that every employee can also fly. In a sense, you can fly in your career. So there's a saying by Tony Fernandez that employees comes first, customers come second. If you have a happy workforce, they'll look after your customers anyway. Don't you like to say? So in strategy, we talk about value, profit, and people proposition, right? So he's achieving all this. You don't just have the value proposition to go after non-customers. You don't really have the people profit proposition, but you also have the profit and people proposition. In fact, they are so good at it that everyone can achieve their dream. So here, we have one guy who's basically a loader who carries the bags and puts inside the plane. Today, he's a pilot. So you can achieve your dream, by by going after your dreams, being in this current organization. That in itself is a way of branding. Now everyone can fly, so you can fly in your career as well. And leadership is important. Leadership is what drives a customer, right? A leadership is what drives the organization. So Tony Fernandez also takes a lot of opportunity to do a job rotation. Sometimes he cleans the plane as well. So why does he do this? When I was talking to him, he told me that the reason he does this is not to show people that he's humble and so on, but it's really to get to talk to people on the ground. And once he can speak to the people on the ground, his ears is always on the ground. He hears from his employees feedback, and that's how they come up with some great strategies as well. So strategies can come from any part of the organization. So I was talking about a 12-tier pricing, getting the strategic sequence right, pricing innovation, just a quick one. So this is in terms of time to depart, and this is the ticket price. So if it's closer to the time of departing, your price will be higher. This is an average price. And they have this target cost where at the end of the day, even when you book your flight much earlier, you fall under tier 1 pricing. And here is where they do a lot of promotion, right? They have a target cost and they really bring down the cost in such a great way. So I don't want to go too deep into this, it's a bit technical. But one of the ways they drive the cost down is by high utilization of the aircraft, single class seating, multitasking staff, lean distribution systems, and no frills. So they have the lowest ask, which is the available seat kilometer cost per world. And every plane on average, the loading is about 60 to 70%. So they use that 20% as a marketing gimmick. So what they do is they give a lot of these free seats. They give away 1 million free seats. So it's to create a buzz. It's to create that marketing. Which is true. You can really get a seat for 1 ringgit sometimes. But I'm not sure about it now. But at that point of time, they did a lot of this promo because they wanted to load the plane fully. So they're very good at cost calculation and algorithm. In terms of passenger traffic, when you get the strategic sequence right, your passengers is really going up like crazy. In 2016, they have about 56 million passengers, and they're the world's best company to work for, and revenue over USD 1.5 billion. Today, or rather in 2016, they had 221 routes, 112 destinations. Very big on social media and so on. But what's next for the company, right? So what's next for the company is they are going into big data analytics. So here's the deal. Remember I talked about Stranovation. Key takeaway here is they are, as a strategy, as value proposition, they are creating affordable full service airline. But as the leader, he's driving the company towards becoming a leading technology travel company. So they're going to become a data company that is in the airline business. There's a big difference. Huh? So they're going to use a lot of this data analytics to do that. Why? Because you want to improve customer experience, right, with a more personalized approach, targeted marketing, and maximize operational efficiency by using technology. So this is a great example of Stranovation, a company that has a good strategy to go after a non-customer, but at the same time they have a strong leader that drives the company move forward and now becoming a leading innovation company, technology travel company, sorry. And lastly, in terms of innovation, they're using a number of technologies. Like now, they are pilot testing technology where there's no check-in at all. So you could it's called seamless check-in. Yeah, so you can just drop off the luggage and just go through. And the pilot testing is in Australia right now. So you won't even have to go and check into a counter. You can just really literally drop your bag and just go onto the plane. So they're using data, using different security systems, scanning, eye retina scanning, and so on. And so there's going to be facial recognition and so on. So the future is already here. So a deadly combination of strategy, innovation, and leadership is fantastic, and that's the concept of Stranovation. That's an example of Malaysia. Are we doing okay so far? Yep. Yeah? All right, good. Okay, so let me share with you one more example, then I can take Q&A. All right. So I want to go to China now, right? Talk about technology, right? Xiaomi, a very interesting company that I got a chance to interact with, and I just want to share with you in terms of Stranovation how they have reconstructed and disrupted the smartphone industry. A case study from China. So it all started with a leader, right? It's always the tone from the top, and this man called Li Jun, who's best known as Steve Jobs in China. And in 2007 he was in the software business, but he didn't want to be there anymore because he quit Kingsoft, and he essentially wanted to go into the smartphone industry because he said that's the way of the future, and he was right. If you talk about smartphones today, it's all about integration of smartphones, right? But at that point of time in China, there were the premium players like iPhone and Samsung, and they were very, very expensive. They're not affordable for low-income families, and 80% of people, couldn't really afford. But on the other side, there were the cheap phones where they talk about low-quality phones and low prices, but it was very, very low quality. So there was still a space between the two that you can create high-quality, low-cost phones. And if you look at the price point of an iPhone, the marketing and retail expenses are very expensive, and it costs for $650 to buy an iPhone, at that point of time, iPhone 5 in China. So what he decided to do is, in terms of strategy, he wanted to cut costs, and he went via e-commerce and word of mouth marketing, and they created a different kind of strategy, and they created different products that sold only for $250 US. And as a result, they came up with very good, high quality, basic but beautiful phones, right? As you can see here. And in terms of innovation, how did they innovate further is by having this flash sale. Now, they show everything online, but they only sell it for a particular point of time. So they have this flash sale just to create a word of mouth, the buzz of marketing. I also understand that now Alibaba is in Pakistan, right? So it's very interesting to see how this pans out. And they created an extended shelf life. When you buy a phone, you always have a very short shelf life, right? Always come up with 2 and 3 and 4, and you can't keep up. So they don't do that, right? So they extend the shelf life of the product, and they have what we call the open source platform, where you can create multiple apps in that, and also limited range of products. Now, just by a simple strategic move like this and going after non-customers and applying basic innovation, they could reach a revenue of 45 billion worth as a company, and over 160 million phone users, and sold about 70 million phones in 2015 alone. And then now they've become the third top selling phone maker in the world, and 50% market share in China, overtaking Apple and Samsung. So this was done by really not fighting and not reacting or defending, but this was done by taking a very proactive approach. How? In terms of strategy, they created an ecosystem that connects different users industry with the smartphone at the center. But he as a company is leading the company towards IoT now, moving forward. And lastly, high quality product at low cost. So that was the innovation behind. And if you look at it, again, a daily combination of strategy, innovation, leadership, leading the company to take on a good strategy of the market, and using innovation as well. So innovation, again, like I said, doesn't have to be high tech, high expense, very expensive, and so on. And now they are creating an ecosystem of wearables and the phone being able to communicate with household items, security, smartphones, and so on. And even if it's a basic phone, you can still communicate with some of these appliances and product at home. So in terms of a strategy, it's fantastic. So you can see in these two examples, before I take some questions, you can see in these two examples that they have the right strategy by understanding the market, going after non-customers, not by competing, but by creating. In terms of innovation, they support the strategy by addressing and disrupting the market by introducing innovation that's never been done. Doesn't have to be super high tech, but it adds value and it complements to the strategy. And leadership is at the heart of it all to drive and propel it forward, and not just stop there like AirAsia. They didn't just stop at being the best low-cost airline, but now they're driving further and becoming, a technology travel company. These guys are going further by integrating even a basic phone to all of the appliances. So at the heart of it all, this is what Stranovation is. And it's important for us to know that this combination can really bring forth future growth for companies. All right, so I think I'll stop there. Yeah, and in terms of presentation, but let's have a bit of Q&A in order for us to engage a little bit more, and I can give you probably some more examples. So I'll leave you with that thought, for companies to capitalize on strategy, innovation, leadership, and this can be applied in any context as well. So let's have some questions from the floor, and then we can take it from there.
So for blue oceans to really manifest, shouldn't you have a primary ecosystem that is supportive of that nurturing? हमारे स्कूलों में तो we kind of rote learning and all the rest of it. We're not geared for critical thinking and the spirit of inquiry. So it all kind of integrates with where you're coming from, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a good point in a sense where you have to be open, right, to begin exploring the blue ocean. Right? If there's no desire for change, or there's no, how should I put it, there's no urgency to change and pursue blue ocean, then you will eventually just remain in the status quo. So first is the intent. That's why leadership is important, to drive that and say that, it's not that we have to change because we are starting to have competition. Again, going back to this point here, let me just go back to that model. Yeah, so this point here. So it's not that you should start your strategy process here only when you react. That is a bit too late. Even if you're a market leader, you should start being proactive to think about the next wave, the next strategy moving forward. So take for example Apple, right? Apple, in the beginning, they created the blue ocean. They were the most innovative company and so on and so forth, $1 trillion market cap. But today, they have suddenly dropped in terms of market cap. And today, how many of you have really bought the latest iPhone? Not really, right? You have kind of wondering, what are these guys doing? They keep adding numbers to the phone, 10, 11, and so on, X now, but they keep raising the price. Well, what's new? There's nothing, right? But they keep relying on creating a buzz, a communication, So yeah, so just to end before I go on to that question, yes, there need to be an urgency to be proactive to create a blue ocean. But the question is this: many people want, but they don't know how. So there is a process to the madness. There is a methodology. There is a way that you can follow in order for you to create your blue ocean, which has been proven.
I was just thinking about the mindset.
Oh, the mindset, yeah.
See, in our part of the world, the red is more of the mindset. We don't have a blue mindset.
Yeah.
We're so reactive. Everything
Yeah,
is so reactive here.
Yeah.
So you need a certain amount of stability in the operating environment before you can start pursuing blue ocean thinking, like they call it.
Yeah, and that needs a lot of awareness. That needs what we call visual awakening. So the tools in Blue Oceans are very visual. So and there's one process. The starting process is called visual awakening. You can never change a person's mind unless they see something. If they see something, then they say, okay, there is an agenda. There is a need for us to change. So that is part of the process. That's why in the process we have visual awakening, exploration, creation, and so on. So awakening process needs to be there. We need to awaken to see that hey, we have a need to change at this point of time. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So so just give me a sec. There was a gentleman at the back first.
I would just like to back what gentleman says, and one question from you that is still like beaten up by so much competitors, how Apple is able to maintain the highest brand equity in the market. Uh, I think that we should appreciate Apple.
Oh, of
Apple
course,
so
of course.
much,
I'm a big Apple fan, by the way. You can see.
I do have an iPhone, and I'm not really looking forward to switch to Samsung or Xiaomi or whatever, because somewhat I have a specific brand equity in my mind, and awareness and specific identity of Apple, and that I think that that's what happened back there in 1970s when Steve Jobs came up with such a innovative idea of creating such a brand which can actually relate to people deep down their
Yeah.
mind and all this stuff.
Yeah. So I hear you. I agree in a sense where I'm a big Apple fan and I've been using Apple all my life. But again, as what you mentioned just now, a brand equity is still an equity. So if a brand equity is an equity, it can fluctuate. So equity can fluctuate. So what's happening is how did they lose like 250 billion in 1 week in terms of market cap? That's the transactional equity that has happened because the perception equity relates to perception of the brand. So and perception of the brand goes back to the value proposition of the brand promise. So what happened there was people started looking at the product and saying, hey, you and I are fans. Whatever it is, if Apple sell a toilet bowl, also will buy it. You know what I mean? Well, but then when you look at the brand equity, or rather the group of it, there are still people who are swinging between brands. That's why it's called brand equity. So there's still about 30-40% usually of people can switch. People like us fall under the loyal 20-30%. But they are still 25% to 30%. That's why they lost 250 billion from $1 trillion market cap.
So basically, the blue ocean has turned into a red ocean now. That's
Yes,
what we're
yes,
saying, right?
yes. So as a leader like Tim Cook, what he has to do, he has to think about what's the next wave of innovation, right? What's next? You can't just come up with product extensions. If you just come up with product extension, Apple 6, 10, 11, X, and Y, and Z, that's not going to help with your brand equity. Agree? Yeah. So let me just come back to this gentleman, and then we can have.
This is Wes Khan from USP General Insurance. Sir, I would like to, but I think that there's a tough cutthroat competition in this field. This is the first part, and secondly, the emergence of risk associated with the new technology. Because with passage of time, it is always very difficult for the companies to survive when there is advancement in technology. So, how to proceed in this regard?
All right. So you're from the insurance.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, insurance industry is a very cutthroat industry, but we do work a lot with a lot of insurance company. But we realized that a lot of these insurance companies do not have a product that meets the solution of, or rather, the context of what the customer really wants. For example, we were dealing with one company, I won't mention the name, but they wanted to penetrate into the Bangladesh market. So Bangladesh market, the market penetration of Bangladesh market was, or rather, the people who had insurance were only at something like 5%. Market penetration was something at 9%. So there was a huge opportunity, but they can't penetrate into the market. They can't grow. Why? What was the disconnect? You know what? Because, and they keep selling the products that they have because they're a global company. The problem was they didn't understand what are the pain points of the customer or the people. They didn't contextualize the product and they did not personalize the product for the client. And so what happened was they really looked at what really does the customer really want. Are they going to buy a very high premium or are they going to start off with a very basic premium? So now in the process of creating very basic premium and also understanding their lifestyle, culture and so on. Because something that works in a developed country might not work in a developing country. So personalization is something that's very, very important. And that's how you break away from competition. So a lot of insurance companies, they always fight with each other and they're always very obsessed about competing with each other. But if you look at penetration rate or rather the take-up rate of insurance in any country, even Malaysia, still there's about 60%, just like AirAsia, 94% haven't flew, about 64% or 65% doesn't have insurance policy.
Insurance
Because there's no product
insurance
that meets their needs.
Insurance penetration remains very low in this region. According to the most recent world map of microinsurance, a very nominal share of population is covered by some form of microinsurance, leaving a significant share of the population unserved and potentially exposed to catastrophic.
Yes. Yeah.
Additionally, low levels of financial literacy and trust in insurance companies are among the major obstacles.
Yeah.
So I think these all matters take place.
So a lot of the insurance companies are using instruments that are used to maximize yield and so on, right? And these instruments have a certain formula, and you have to have a basic entry point premium. That has to be reconstructed. That has to be redesigned because, let's say in Pakistan, you cannot sell the premium products because you will only reach the top of the pyramid or the middle of the pyramid. But the bottom of the pyramid is where the blue ocean is. So whoever comes up with a product, an entry point product that can capture this group of non-customers is a game changer. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how can a university use this strategy?
University. So, university can use a lot of, strategy in terms of innovating the way teaching is done, right? Or rather, learning is done. And a lot of universities these days are doing a reverse. In the past, we come to a classroom, we listen to the lecture, we go back and do homework. So now they're doing a reverse classroom. You listen to the lecture, then you come to class and you discuss. So learning happens beyond moving away from the focus on the lecturer. We start looking at learning from each other and using technology. So you can have all your lectures online. You can look at all the lectures, and then you come to class, you discuss, you develop concepts. So again, the same principle of strategy, innovation, leadership can be applied, but this requires the Stranovation approach, the Stranovation philosophy. So I'll come back to you. I'm just going. Whoever puts up their hand first, yeah. I'll come back to you.
So
yeah.
As a company, what is that one key point or factor that they should realize? Okay, we're in the red ocean and we need to move to the blue ocean. Is it your end net income? So is it you need to be objectified of it in terms of what your net income is or what your top or bottom line is, or do you subjectively look at what your customer is doing, or what's that one first thing which is an alarm that you should kind of say, okay, now you need to move to the blue ocean?
Yeah. So both top line, bottom line. So which means if your revenue is dropping, your profits are shrinking, that's already a quick sign already that you're already in a red ocean space. And that can be really quantified in that sense. But the real good companies are the ones who don't wait until your revenue drops, because it's always like a wave that you create, just like the ice example. You need to always constantly create new revenue streams, and at the same time you need to reduce the cost so that you can maximize your profit. So don't be the point again is, unfortunately, most of the clients that we deal with, they always are in this stage. They react and they have to defend, you know, and that's why they're in the red ocean space. But if you're already in the blue ocean space and you constantly do that, always take proactive measures every 2 years, 3 years, then you are always the market leader. So people tend to react and defend when their revenue drops, when their profit drops. So but the good thing is, it's never too late to transform. We have had many examples where you know businesses can transform and turn around, but not by competing, not by just cost cutting, but by creating and by applying value innovation.
So I think moving into the blue ocean, the first and the foremost thing is the innovation.
Yeah.
If you have innovation in hand, you yourself will separate yourself from the red ocean and come onto the blue ocean.
Yeah.
And for that innovation to happen, rather than strategy, obviously in itself is a big thing. If I have to pinpoint, it's the research of the consumer behavior. Because if you know this is where the market is going and this is where my consumer is going, and after 1 year, this is where my consumer will be. So you innovate according to that, which will give you a benefit in the long run, probably. So we just had a discussion about iPhone. Why players like Huawei or why other players are increasing and iPhone in itself is decreasing in terms of the market share is because iPhone historically has been more focused on the user experience rather than the technology. And with the tech savvy generation that is coming up, the technology became more important for the consumers. As a result, Huawei or Xiaomi or whatever brands are coming up are taking more market share from the iPhone rather than taking it from Samsung or the other Android phone. So innovation probably is the first thing that has to be there for you to fall into the blue ocean, because other than the innovation, you cannot separate yourself from the red ocean.
I get your point, but innovation in itself can just be novelty, and novelty might not be in the right context in terms of the strategy. So strategy has to go after unserved or undeserved market, unserved and underserved market. Because if you just have novelty, you just have innovation, you can be very cool, but you might not be making money. So that is also a problem that Apple is actually facing. So my point, that's why the concept of renovation is important. It's not just the return on coolness, it's a return on investment. So you have to have strategy, innovation, leadership. One cannot work without the other. Just like I told you the example, the car without the fuel and the fuel without the car is useless. So strategy and innovation has to work together. Then only you can come up with a deadly combination.
Strategy has to work with everything. Strategy has to be there.
So strategy is important because a lot of people tend to downplay strategy and upplay innovation. So because innovation itself can be very high tech and still can be dumb, in a sense where it might not really have any value, you know. But innovation in itself can come back again if the strategy is right. For example, Samsung uses a lot of innovation like the what do you call it, the pen and all that. But that is actually a technology that is in the 80s, the stylus. But they brought it back again because they understood the strategy was to capture a lot of millennials that are doing a lot of editing because of social media and so on. So that's why they brought it back. So sometimes innovation or technology can be brought back if the strategy is right. So it's not a zero-sum game. You need a combination of both. That's why I feel that it has to be a combination of both. And if you look at, let's say, Steve Jobs and Jonathan Ive and so on, early on they understood what pain points to solve for the customer. Then they actually come up with innovation. Because I used to work in a technology company, and I can tell you, if you really think about it, I will even go as far as to say that Apple did not invent anything in terms of innovation, but they put the pieces together. when they created the first iPhone, it was not their invention. In fact, Nokia already had the screenless screen. I mean the full screen, and they also had nothing new. In fact, when they first launched the iPhone, was a 2G technology, was a flawed 2G technology. But the way they marketed it, the way they communicated, and the way they said that they were solving the pain points of the customer, saying that now you can browse, now you can call the phone, and now you can have your iPod all in one device. That was the value proposition. So the strategy was right, with the right innovation, packaging put together, with the right leadership like Steve Jobs. That's why they had a winning formula.
I have a question.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Shravya. Yeah, I'm just following the sequence. Yes, sir.
At the start of the presentation, you mentioned that there is a good news, and innovation is followed by a process, step-by-step process.
Yeah.
I understand and I agree that reconstructing a strategy is an easier part of innovation because it is followed by a systematic methodology.
Yep.
But when it comes to innovation, what could be the process?
Yeah.
Step-by-step process.
Good. So that's a great question. So innovation in itself, can be cultivated through an ecosystem, a company. So there is such a thing as organizational innovation. So meaning that how can you create an environment of innovation? Innovation at its heart and soul is innovatio, which is basically novelty, new creation. New creation comes not by you being an individual, it's by collaboration. So how can you enhance collaboration? And this is something, again going back to Apple, this is something that they do very consciously. Even the new office is designed for extreme collaboration. Even if I walk past a corridor, if I see somebody, they design it in such a way, there's a process where you can start talking and straight away write an idea. So that's how the aha moment comes about. So how can you reorganize your organization to enhance an environment of innovation instead of killing it? There are sometimes some environment where you can become innovation killers, right? Say, for example, in your office, the way you design the office is very silo, closed up. How do you expect innovation to happen? So innovation can be cultivated through creating a correct environment. So there are many steps that you can do, but essentially it's the norm, it's the culture. So there are the soft part and the hard part. So soft part is like how do you create collaboration? Let's say now all of you obviously have key performance indicators, right? KPI. But in your KPI, how many percentage is based on collaboration? Working with somebody else, working with another team. Right? Because the key performance indicator is designed to be individual. So collaboration is one. Then the design of your office. Is it enhancing collaboration? Is it enhancing innovation? I can say back home, we have a number of office, like the CEO will tell me, I want my people to be innovative. I go to the office and I see that there are a lot of innovation killers that are in the office the way it's designed. And in fact, sometimes even the leadership can be innovation killers. They say, oh, I want you to come up with great ideas. Then you go and give the idea and say, this is a stupid idea. So are you enhancing innovation or are you killing innovation? Instead of saying, okay, we have this idea, everybody, let's come together. How can we make this idea better? Now you tell. So there's no such thing as killing an idea, but always leveraging and expanding the idea. So those are all innovation creation. Okay, so I know my time is up. So thank you very much.
I take this opportunity to thank you for this wonderful lecture.
Yeah.
And for a formal vote of thanks, I would like to invite Ali Habib, the Secretary of Marketing Association of Pakistan. But before he comes and joins us here, a couple of observations that I would like to make. Sure. Excellent lecture. Gave us insights about new avenues that can be explored. I think one of the key area was some of the questions were focused on innovation versus blue ocean. I think what the key here was that blue ocean strategy does not necessarily rely on innovation alone. Take for example any industry. I mean, the toothpaste industry. I mean, only 20% or 25% of Pakistanis regularly use a toothbrush or they brush their teeth every day. That takes about 75% of the market unexplored. So either you can go and hit the 25% market, the red ocean market, compete with the existing toothpaste manufacturers, or go out and explore the new avenues of such 75%. Another question was about when you decide to move out of the red ocean and move into blue ocean. I think for that, you rightly pointed out, but let me add that for that particular reason, you have Michael Porter and his matrix. So you can actually see through that matrix if you should remain in that industry, or if there are many or very few suppliers or very few buyers or many competitors or there are a lot of substitutes. That is where you have to make a decision. Ultimately, what strategy you are you're going to employ will depend on your own resources. With that, Ali, could I request you to come and express the vote of thanks on behalf of Marketing Association of Marketing?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Rajkumar for taking time out to come to Pakistan and talk to us about strategy and innovation, stranovation, as you call it. I think the fact that you possess such a diversified exposure and experience in multiple industries across different countries, I think is something very good for us to learn. We all and thank you all for being here, because I think and it was a good interactive question answer session that we had. We all are engaged in our different employments, and I think we all on a daily basis struggle with the digital aspects, with the strategy aspects, with the innovation aspects. And a lot of our industries, I work in a bank, are actually threatened by with innovation that is coming in. And literally, I think 5 years from now, I at least cannot look in a crystal glass and predict the next 5 years. I might say something right now which might be true for today, but tomorrow an innovation might come in that is going to shake our industry. And I think retail industry is going through that. News industry, from which Ali Hassan is a part of, I think that's really is going through a shake-up, and finance industry is going through a shake-up. So I think your talk is very helpful in that. Once again, thank you all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here, taking our time. And we'd like to present a token for which I'd like Ali Hassan.
Yeah, I'd like to invite our fellow council member Peter and AJ, if I can request you to you can announce.
Yeah. Ashma, may I request you please join us here and accept this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.